Okay, welcome back to Stunner MR Sports. This is part 2 to removing and changing out the differential seal for the first generation Gen 1 Raptor SVT 6.2 liter. Alright, first thing you want to do is you're going to loosen your lugs up. So you can take the wheel off. It takes 21 millimeter lugs. So you loosen them up, jack the vehicle up, take the lugs off, take the tire off. Okay, once you take the tire off, then you get down here, and what I forgot to mention in the previous video is you have your upper control arm, you got your tie rod, and I think this is the lower control arm bolt. This is takes a 24 millimeter bolt, and here is I believe a 13 millimeter. It takes a 13 millimeter. Nope, it takes a 12. It takes a 12 millimeter wrench. And you have to hold this down and put the 24 millimeter on here, like such, and you turn them in opposite directions to get it off. Okay, this part takes a 12 millimeter, and this one and the top part is a 24 millimeter. Same thing here. Takes well, actually this part takes a 10 millimeter. This is a 21 millimeter for your tie rod here. This one takes 10 millimeter, 21 millimeter. Again, you loosen it up, and once you get down to this part, it's going to start, this whole thing is going to start spinning. So you got to use the smaller wrench, which is what would be a 10, to hold this down, and the 24 millimeter wrench to go in the opposite direction. Okay, so you need two tools for this part here. Right, now you're going to take this one off, take the tie rod off, take the lower control arm bolt off, right? But before you do all that, again, you're gonna have to loosen up your brake line, your ABS lines, and all your other connections here, which you have connection here. Here I've already loosened mine up. This one here takes a 10 millimeter nut, and this one here that I broke is an 8 millimeter nut. Take all that off, right? And you're gonna take some hangers, and as I did earlier, here's my hangers. You got to take off your caliper first. Now your caliper takes bolts here, which I believe is a 12 millimeter, I believe. No, it's a 13. This top part takes a 13 right here. And the other part on the back side, I'm kind of tight in here. Okay, you see, I'm not going to focus right. It takes a 24 millimeter, a 21 millimeter wrench. Take this part off. One is for the bracket here, and the other one is for the caliper. Once you take those bolts off, you're going to use your hanger to hang them up. Because when this comes off, it's going to drop, which has your line connected to it, which you don't want it to drop, because if it drops, it's going to snap your line. You have brake fluid all over the place, and you got another problem. Alright, so you're going to take, when you take those bolts off, you take your hanger, run it through there, and just hang it from there as you seen in the last video. And you just take this bracket completely off. Once you do all that, you're down to your rotor. Okay, and you take your rotor off, and if the rotor is seized up, you're gonna have to take a hammer and hit on corners of the rotor on the back side here till you get the rotor to come off. Okay, and that's covered in the previous vehicle also. Right now, if you want, you could take better access to this CV axle. You can take off your stabilizer bar links, which I believe this takes an 18 millimeter. Okay, but anyway, once you do, okay, now another thing I left off, when putting the CV axle back into there, you push it in there and you have to shove it in there. Once you get it in there pretty good, you gotta kind of push it back in there, because when you pulled it out, you had to use some force to pull it out. But to push it back in, you have to use that same equal force. And also, what I forgot to mention was, when you're putting this part back into the axle, you putting it back into the wheel assembly, you're gonna have to do it in sequence, and you have to do it together. You're gonna have to maneuver this connection and the bottom connection at the same time to get this part right here seated back inside of there. I don't know if you can see that, but you're gonna have to wiggle this at the same time while controlling this whole piece right here. Now, I already put this all back together, so I can't show you a demonstration, but if you've seen the first video, you pretty much got a good understanding of what I mean by that. And that's pretty much it, you know. And that's it. So, and of course, I don't have my brake pads in there, but you're gonna put all your brake pads and everything back in there. Make sure everything's solid. I gotta change these rotors out. I just ordered some, so that's why I'm not gonna put all this back together. Okay, and that's how you change the oil seal on the differential oil seal there.